Welcome back to Speducation. I am your host, Brandon Reed, and as always, if this is your first time to the channel, a special welcome to you. Well, it's a new week and we have a new lesson. So, what are we going to be learning about? Today's lesson, timelines, move-ins. So there are a lot of different types of case conferences, and I've done videos over the different types of case conferences and what to expect of them. So the next type of case conference is a move-in case conference, and there are timelines that are associated with that. So what are those timelines? Well, let's find out. So as a refresher, what is a move-in conference? Well, a move-in conference is a conference that is held for any IEP student that moves into a new school from a different school. These conferences help establish the types of services that schools can and will implement. These conferences also help the special education teachers as well as the school become familiar with the student and his unique needs. Now, it's important to note that during move-in conferences, if a student is moving in from a new school, so if they are moving from, let's say, Franklin Township to Perry Township, then obviously they're going to need a move-in conference. But if they're moving from, let's say, Southport High School to Perry Meridian High School, they might not necessarily need a move-in conference. The reason why is because both of those schools are within Perry Township, the Perry Township education. So when you move from one school to another within the district, you don't necessarily need a move-in conference. So what we're talking about is if a student is moving in from a different school outside of the corporation. So what is the timeline for move-in conferences? Well, you, as the special ed teacher and the school, have 10 school days to complete an IEP for the student to verify what services are going to be delivered. The 10-day timeline begins upon verbal or written verification of special education eligibility. If a student has been attending school but the parent did not inform the school of a prior IEP, you should enter the date when the school was made aware of the IEP as the enrollment date. Now, just like with initial case conferences and ACRs and ACCs, the 10-day timeline that follows a move-in conference is the same. The written notice about proposed or future changes to an IEP must be provided to the parent at the conclusion of the case conference committee meeting, or mailed to the parent after the case conference committee meeting. If mailed, the written notice must be received by the parent no later than 10 business days after the date of the case conference committee meeting. Now, keep in mind, if you disagree with the proposed action described in the written notice, you may request and participate in a meeting with a school official who has the authority to resolve the disagreement. Initiate mediation or request a due process hearing. If you take any of these actions within 10 school days after receiving the written notice, the school cannot take the proposed action and must continue to implement the student's current IEP, not the one that was finalized. However, if you fail to take any of these actions within 10 school days after receiving the written notice, the school may implement or take the proposed action, which means that they will implement the finalized IEP as it is written. Now, keep in mind that even after the 10-day mark, when the IEP is already finalized and accepted, and the school starts to implement it as it is written because they didn't hear from you within that 10 days, if you decide, you know what, I really want to make changes to it, then you have every right to make changes. That's what revision case conferences are for. But if the parent does not respond back to the school within 10 days, then the school can implement the IEP as it is written. And if you noticed that in initials, in annual case conferences, in reevaluations, as well as in move-in case conferences, the 10-day timeline that follows the IEP meeting is all the same. Why is that? Well, it's because of consistency. We want to make sure that we're consistent with the timeline. Now, there are smaller timelines within these case conferences that can be adjusted depending on the school. But overall, parents have 10 days to respond or to reject or accept the IP as it is written. Now, if you liked what you saw, you learned something new, or you're new to the channel, please click that like button. And if you want updates on future videos, feel free to click the subscribe button and ring the bell for updates on future videos. And that's it. That is the timelines associated with different types of case conferences. Oh, but there is one other type of case conference that we hadn't mentioned. What is it? Well, you'll just have to tune in next week to find out. Oh, wait a second. You can't tune in next week because I won't be here. That's right. I'm on spring break. And hopefully you are too. So next week I'm going to be spending spring break with my family. Hopefully the weather will be nice and we'll be able to get out. But don't fret because the week after I will be posting new videos. But until next time, class dismissed.